Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today's video is some really easy DIYs. I did these in mind for my own tier tray, but they could be used for other things as well, and they could also be done on larger scale. At least some of them could be. Anyways, I am using Dollar Tree items, and I'm also crafting my stash. I have miscellaneous things from last year or the years before, and I'm just trying to go through and use what I have. But these are things that, for the most part, you could find this year or substitute for something very similar. So anyways, let's get right into these super easy DIYs. So for this first one, I'm taking this little sign that I actually have already DIY'd. It's from a wooden box sign type thing from the Dollar Tree. I will try to find the video where I did that. I have another channel, if you're not aware, where I used to have my DIYs along with other stuff. And I think it might be on that channel. I'm not sure. But anyways, then I moved over to this channel for all my DIYs. So this sign I use on my tier tray, and so the way my tier tray is positioned, you never see the back side of it. So I thought, why not flip it over and make it reversible, because it's a good size for my tier tray. So I'm giving it a coat of white Waverly chalk paint. I'm trying to be careful to not get any paint along the edges of the box sign, because it's just like a rough weathered wood look, and I didn't want to get any paint on that. So we're just giving that a coat. And then I've got these, like, I don't know, they're like particle board sticker letter things from Hobby Lobby, and I had gotten them on like way clearance. I think they're originally $6.99, and I paid like less than $2 for them. And I am going to give them some paint in the color Pumpkin from Waverly Chalk Paint. And I do have to do a couple coats, but it dries really quick because it kind of just absorbs it. So I do a couple coats, and you could also use rub-on transfers or stickers or anything you want. So use what you've got or use what you have access to. So while my letters are drying, I'm going to give a really rough dry brushing over this white paint with the color Mineral from Waverly Chalk Paint. And then we're going to go ahead and position my letters on to make sure I've got an idea of how I want everything placed. And I do changes. First I tried to off-center the hello, but I end up not doing that. And then I had in my stash these wooden stickers from, I think they were the Target Dollar Spot last year, but Dollar Tree does also have these. And I pulled out a pumpkin, and this one was already colored, and I like the color of it. But you could also paint whatever you can find. Also, pumpkins are pretty easy to freehand as well. Anyways, so now I'm going to stick on my letters. They're actually stickers, but I realized here pretty quick that it wasn't sticking enough. Maybe it was because of the surface I was doing it on. So I pulled out some craft glue from the Dollar Tree, and it's got a nice little fine tip on it. And I just put a little bit of that on there and went ahead and stuck on all of the letters and the pumpkin. I thought about adding bows or other embellishments, but I really liked the simple, easy look of this one. And it's going to be super cute on my tiered tray. I love how this came out, and I love this color combo that I used. So for this next one, I have this wooden truck from the Dollar Tree. It stands up. It's kind of got like a two-sided thing there. You can see there's like a gap in between. And they also have these without the truck bed, but I like the one with the truck bed. And we're going to give the whole thing a color or a coat of Crimson is the shade from Waverly Chalk Paint, but you can use any paint that you want. And I'm going to paint both sides of, or all of the sides of the truck, so front and back of each piece, if that makes sense. Because when it's standing up, you're going to be able to see through it, and I didn't want it to just be the wood look. So I'm painting the base of the truck. I'm going to go back and paint the bed of the wooden rails like in the back of the truck, as well as the wheels. But on the inside, I'm painting the wheels red. I wasn't going to try to get it in there with the black paint. And we're just going to give all of that a coat. It dries really quick. And I only did one coat. I didn't mind if a little bit of wood peeked through here and there. It was definitely a full coat, but there were some places that it was a little bit thinner, and I liked it. I just left it like that. Now, I didn't do a ton of details on this, but I am painting, like I said, the bed of the truck. I pulled out a red and like tan color and mixed them together and just painted both sides of each piece of the rail. So I hope I'm making sense here. And then we're going to paint the wheels black, and I'm just kind of freehanding the top part of the wheels to round them out. And I don't do any other details on this truck. I felt like all the cutout places for like the wheel well and I think like the door handle and the window, I felt like the cutouts gave it enough detail, so I just kind of went with that. If you are new here and just stopping by, I want to say welcome. My name is Leanne. I love sharing budget-friendly DIYs with you, and I hope that you consider subscribing before you leave and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss out on my future videos. I really enjoy being creative and sharing these ideas with you, hopefully to inspire you and give you some motivation to do some DIYs yourself. So once this was all painted, I was trying to figure out what to put in this. So I have these little like plasticky glass vase fillers, the colored pumpkins, and then some mini pine cones and some of this moss from the Dollar Tree. And I'm trying to just kind of shove this in here, thinking maybe it would hold up, but it ended up, there's just not much like base for it to hold on to. So I went into my stash and pulled out these wooden domino pieces from the Dollar Tree. They come in a pretty good size pack, and so I just keep them on hand for things like this. And I'm just trimming it down till it fits in there. I don't actually glue it in there, just kind of wedge it in there. And this way I can pull it out and use this truck for other seasons. And you could also just put florals in here if you wanted, but I love the look of this. So I'm going to hot glue the moss onto this little wooden domino and then place it inside, and then just put a little bit of hot glue on the pumpkins and the pine cones, but I'm only putting the hot glue on like the moss or on each other, not at all on the truck. So like I said, now I can just pull this whole piece out and do something with this for Christmas, which I do plan to do. But just use whatever you have on hand. Like I said, florals will be really cute. There's lots of different options at craft stores and the Dollar Tree. And I love how this came out, and I think it's going to look super cute on my tiered tray or a small shelf somewhere. And then for this next one, we're just going to take these pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. They kind of look like they've got like a wood carving of like some leaves in there. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I just wanted to see how this would work. I took some white chalk paint and kind of was dabbing it in with a stencil brush to get into the grooves and tried wiping off the paint. I wasn't sure how much paint I'd be able to get off, what it was going to look like. So what I ended up doing was, once I did this second one, I was like, okay, so I'm definitely not going to be able to get all of the paint off. That's fine. I'm going to do kind of like a whitewashed pumpkin. So you're still going to be able to see the orange, but by wiping it off too, you're going to really see the carvings kind of pop out. And I really liked that look. I also did paint the bottom too, just to make sure my whole thing was finished looking, but you don't necessarily have to do that. I just like to do that so that if someone were to pick it up or whatever, they wouldn't necessarily know that I did this myself. So now I'm going in with some of that brown paint I had left over from the truck DIY, and I do quite a bit of this out of frame, guys, so I ended up cutting this out, but I ended up going back in and doing that in a different color. You'll see in a minute. Then this is a similar pumpkin, but it's just a slightly different shape, and I decided to just do this whole thing in white. You can still see the carving. It doesn't pop out as much, but I do really like how this one came out as well. I decided that I wanted to make these stems green, so I'm using the color Fern by Waverly Chalk Paint, and I'm going to give both of these stems a coat in that color. Once again, I kind of did this out of frame, and then I also Mod Podged over them just to help. I feel like it helps prevent the paint from chipping off, but that's definitely optional. But I did that completely out of frame, so I did not include that footage. But here's how they came out. I think they're super cute. I just like the different look. I like to have not all my pumpkins look exactly the same. So for this next one, I pulled this out. This is from my stash from last year, but I think they have it every year. And I'm just pulling off the pumpkins and then one of the wood cutout pumpkins as well. And I'm just kind of smoothing out where the staples were. You could sand that if you wanted, but I'm going for rough and rustic, so nothing has to be perfect. So I flipped these over and I'm going to paint them with the color Pumpkin from Waverly Chalk Paint. I do a couple of coats. This MDF board really soaks up the paint, so you do have to do a couple coats, but it also dries really fast. And I did decide to do all of the edges just to give it a finished and complete look. And we're going to do that for both of these. Let me know, are you getting ready to decorate for fall, or is it too early for you? I will be decorating very shortly here. I like to have it done by September to just fully enjoy it. And then I decorate for Christmas kind of early as well. So now I'm going in while these pumpkins are still wet with some antique wax, and I'm just roughly painting the stem. Again, not doing anything perfect here, and then just doing some dry brush strokes kind of to give this pumpkin some shape. So I just do some angled ones And then we're going to go in and do the little pumpkin in the color moss, and then we'll do the same thing with the antique wax. Now this one does have a hole in the top because this would be for like, I think it's called like an ornament, but we're going to cover that up so I didn't worry about filling that in. Now when I first had the idea for this particular DIY, I think I had it last year. I keep a notebook where I just kind of jot down ideas when they come to me or when I see something. I was going to do this in a much larger scale, but I then realized I don't have a place for something like that. But you could certainly do this in a bigger one with some of those pumpkin signs from Dollar Tree. You just need two of the same size and one that's a little bit smaller. Now for the back side, I decided to cover this with contact paper because I've seen people do this and I thought, oh, that's a good idea. And I have this contact paper that I've had forever that I'm not using for anything. In theory, it kind of works, but then in the end, it didn't work great. I ended up having to put some hot glue underneath it because when I hot glue our stand, which you're going to see at the end here, then the blocks were only, that I was using for a stand, were only stuck to the contact paper and it was pulling the contact paper off of the sign. So I would suggest doing this with like some cardstock or scrapbook paper or something like that, and gluing it on would work better. But nonetheless, I made it work, and I'm just using a sandpaper to clean up the edges. And then for this little pumpkin, we're going to wrap the stem with twine. There's actually some little pieces of twine that came with these little ornaments, cutout things, so that's what I'm using, but you can just use whatever twine you want. I actually had to use two pieces because they were shorter pieces, and we're just going to cover the stem completely, making these pumpkins not all exactly the same, but similar. So now I'm just using a ruler, or actually a level, to figure out where to place these, and we're using some wood glue and some hot glue. The hot glue will hold it quickly, the wood glue holds it for a little bit longer, but once again, the glue was kind of pulling the contact paper away from the signs, so I didn't like the contact paper idea on this project. And then I just had made some little twine bows that I just showed you, and I burned the fuzzies to get them off. And I also pulled out a wooden leaf that was also from like one of the Target dollar spots from last year. That was just in my stash. And now I'm using some Jenga blocks in the back to stand it up, and this is what I was talking about. I ended up having to go around, and I spare you the details, but I had to go around and put a little bit of hot glue underneath the contact paper. But all in all, I absolutely love this. I was going to put words on it, and then I decided not to. I just love the simple look of this little sign. Alright, well that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like this video by giving it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. I would love to have you join my YouTube family. I'll be posting more DIYs in these coming months. I'm going to do all the time, but we're moving into fall and then Christmas and all sorts of fun stuff. So I hope that you stick around, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.